So this clip is from the channel Heretic Clips, and the person being interviewed is Sonia Poulton, and she's a journalist. She's a social commentator and a documentary maker. And as you can see from the title, it's about Jeffrey Epstein and Prince Andrew, and it's very enlightening.
So he has never been held accountable for his relationship with a predator. And that's not the only predator that Charles has been very, very close to. Obviously, Jimmy Savile is probably the most famous one, but it's not.
Jimmy Savile was very close to the royal family, and he was brought into their inner circle by Lord Louis Mountbatten, who was King Charles' uncle and a notorious paedophile.
Not the only one, and we mustn't think it is. And so I do find it curious that it is impossible. I think I've said this before to you. It is impossible for prime ministers or royal members of the royal family not to be informed of the people around them. The secret services around them would know everything about the company they keep.
That's 100% true. They absolutely know each person who is brought close to either a prime minister or anyone in the royal family. They know who they are, they know the background. So to say that they didn't know this person was a predator is utter lies.
It's absolutely impossible that the royal family did not know about Jimmy Savile, and it's impossible that Margaret Thatcher didn't know about Jimmy Savile. And so that says to me that they were perfectly happy to be in the company of a man who wasn't just a predator, but he was also a procurer of children for the British establishment, and he was also a necrophiliac.
Essentially, that is what Jimmy Savile was. He was a procurer of children for the elite establishment, and that is why he was covered up for so long. That's why he was able to get away with the things he got away with, because he had high profile people in his pocket because of the things he knew about them, the things he did, and the things he could do for them.
You know, he had keys to a morgue and he'd go in and have sex with dead bodies.
So did they know that? Well, I don't even know. I mean, it's enough, isn't it? The rest of it. And well, Epstein as well. I mean, Andrew Loney, I remember saying as well,
yes.
They know that they'd scouted and the rest of the royals had looked into Epstein and they knew about his past and what he was up to. And Andrew went anyway.
Yeah, it's impossible not to. And by the way, who travels across the Atlantic to go and break off a relationship, right? And that was Andrew's excuse, wasn't it? When he was then caught with him again after it started to come out about Epstein. And we still have not been told the story of Epstein. We've been led down a merry dance, and the story they want to tell us about Epstein, which they have successfully done, was that it was generally females of consenting age, or at least, 14, 15, 16 giving massages. But there's so much more to it.
There's definitely much more to it. That is just a cover story. And it is just a cover story. And interestingly, if you go onto the FBI vault and download all the Epstein files, you'll find it very interesting that it was covered up regarding a sexual assault much earlier in his life. And he was basically just given a slap on the wrist because, as the documents say, that the judge at the time was told that he belonged to intelligence.
There was stuff that went on in Epstein's ranch. There was certainly stuff that went on at Epstein's island, almost certainly that involved children. And that is not the story we've been told. We've been told a story of girls who were earning a bit of extra money.
Virginia Giffrey.
Yeah, exactly.
17 years old, maybe, was she?
Yeah, exactly. So not even illegal in the UK, right?
Yeah. And you would say they were actually young children.
Yeah, there is every reason to believe that the real story has been hidden and will remain hidden because of the ties. And I think there's a lot of parallels that can be drawn between what was going on with Epstein and how much influence he had, and actually what's going on now with Diddy, with Sean Diddy Combs. I think there's a lot of parallels to be drawn, which I'd be happy to explore with you. But it's the same old thing, and that is these people are extremely well connected, so they cannot allow the full stories to come out, because if the full stories come out, that means all the people who are implicated are done.
If the full story comes out, the house of cards falls, doesn't it? Because they're all linked to each other. So they all have a vested interest to cover for each person. everyone involved covers for each other.
Done for.
Mm,
They're
mm.
done for. And there's several presidents, you know, past and present, that were there repeatedly, sometimes with their own children.
Wow.
You know, we can't overlook that. Epstein's influence obviously was tremendous. Royals, politicians, very famous people, and it just repeats over and over and over again. It's a cycle, and it's a cycle because we never get to the bottom of the real story. We are fed some half story, whether that's, you know, Virginia Giuffre. She's done very well out of this, actually, extremely well.
In what sense?
Hmm?
In what sense?
Financially, she's done brilliantly,
Oh,
hasn't she?
yeah.
Obviously, the reported 12 million went to her.
Mm.
And to
Still, you wouldn't wish that on your kids, to end up on that island for any money.
I absolutely would not. No, I absolutely would not. But I do think that I found it interesting that I felt that more exposures should have happened before a settlement took place. Put it that way, right? Because settlement is silence.
Wow. That's how it works, I suppose.
That's exactly how it works. So
God.
And that is what it is. Settlement is just paid for silence. Now, if Prince Andrew hadn't have done anything wrong or wasn't involved in anything untoward, why would there need to be a settlement?
Absolutely, she should have been better protected, and that includes by her own parents, because these girls were being dropped off frequently by their parents at Epstein's house to go do the.
Shocking. Absolutely shocking. The fact that parents, there's just no way they couldn't have known that he was some kind of creep to be dropping them off as well. You've got to think to yourself, well, were they being paid to do these things? And it's just horrific.
The massages and everything. Okay, so these children weren't, and some of them weren't children, some of them were young women. But point being is that we've managed to neatly get away from what was potentially happening there. And I've heard stories from people where they claim to have been taken to Epstein's ranch and just kind of used as, like, you know, sire beasts, where they were being forced to be impregnated, then have children. The children were used for nefarious reasons. That's not stories we hear about Epstein, but
No.
we should have been able to have got to the bottom of that. But because it's all been clouded with, you know, the more high profile, I think the whole thing was captured. I think that there was a group of women and it was all captured by them, the Epstein story. And
What does
so
that mean?
it means that all our focus is on these women who were of above consenting age. And so, while we see that he was probably a really unpleasant person, we don't get to the truth of what he really was and what he was doing.
I don't think people fully understand how horrific it probably was, what was actually going on and is going on these days. And the fact that there has been just this focus on older girls, 14, 15, 16, 17, that's sort of blocking the reality of it, that there's much younger children involved in this more than likely. So tell me what you think about this interview in the comments.